Hello. Bon dia.
Okay. Well, you heard that Nathalie has quite a wealth of international experience, and we're going to talk about how diversity is perceived and positioned in different parts of the world. But if you allow me, as an academic, I'll start with something which is more research-based. So let me start with the research part. What does research tell us about this topic? Well, research tells us that female leadership, in fact, starts much earlier in life than at the point in which some accomplishments are achieved by female leaders. For example, when you complete studies, high-level studies, or you're appointed to a senior leadership position. Many people and studies confirm that time and again. It starts at an earlier age, and they mention two factors. They mention confidence and elements that have helped the person grow and build confidence, and of course, connections in the sense of having had an environment and people that have helped you in several ways. So, for example, was she encouraged to lead as a child? Did she have a role model, or was she offered opportunities later in life when she was in a corporate environment? So these are some things that the literature and the studies show. My question to you to get started would be if any of those have applied to you, and in other words, what have been your key influences in life to get you where you are? If, taking all these things into account, that the things start not just when you are there, but much earlier.
Sure. So just before I start, I would like to thank Executiva and Isabel for welcoming me here. It's really a pleasure to be here, and congratulations for having that conference. I think it's a great initiative, and thank you for welcoming us. So what you say is really true. It's really an addition of a lot of events, an addition of circumstances that actually bring me to who I am today as a leader. So to go back to my early age, because this is really usually where it starts, I will say my first role model was my dad. My dad was actually quite an entrepreneur. He has created 4 different companies in Africa, North Africa and West Africa. He was an entrepreneur and also an adventurer, and so he learned me that entrepreneurial spirits, but also that to move on in life you have to take risk, and this is very important if you want to be a leader. And remember the way also he educated myself and my brother and sister. It was really, everything was really, really hard to get, and I think it's also a good lesson of life. I remember our vacation was not like vacation like everybody, where you go to the beach or you go to the pool or you go to the theater. We were going to safari. We are going to climb the Kilimanjaros. I remember in a little car, a Peugeot from Algeria to Ivory Coast. I was 8 years old. All those things actually teach me how to quickly get out of my comfort zone and learn to work in these different environments. Another key element is I've been doing, when I was young again, been doing a lot of competition in jumping horses. And this is really important competition as well, because when you want to, competition is not just to fight people, it's really to learn how not to give up. And actually, I would say when you do jumping, and it's not you who jump, it's the horse. So you need to lead, you need to influence your horse to make sure that you can succeed in your competition. So all those things really bring me some key elements that are, I believe, very important for a leader. And another point which is also important is I've been, and as it was mentioned in my bio, I grew up in Africa, and then I went to France. As you can hear, I'm French, but grew up in Morocco, in Ivory Coast, and I did most of my career in the United States. Each time I had to re-question myself, and each time I was actually in an environment where I was quite different than the others. especially in Africa. I grew up in a public, and I went in a public school where I was the only white person. And so you learn quickly, and personally I learned quickly that being different, it's okay. And especially for women, you have, I mean, a lot of women are afraid to be in a man environment. And for me, it really helped me to quickly learn that it's okay to be different, it's okay to be yourself, and it's okay to grow up in an environment where you're not the same as everybody else. So all those little things, I would say, definitively helped me to be a leader today.
And later in life, when you were in a corporate environment, did you have people that somehow gave you opportunities, whether it was another female leader that you could follow or other role models? It doesn't have to be necessarily a female leader, but what I've noticed and what I've seen in studies about this topic is that it's not lack of ambition in many cases, but it's confidence. You're not brought up, encouraged to do these type of things, and sometimes finding somebody that gives you the space and challenges you and the right, asking from you to be a leader somehow, or giving you the space to grow. Did you have some people that help you in that regard? Can you think of some in your professional career?
Quite honestly, no.
Okay.
I wish I could have. Okay. I wish I could have a mentor, because I made a lot of mistakes, and I think I would have be more successful, or maybe in the easiest way than what I did. But I think it's also because, again, as I said, I was in the financial industry. It's all about men. International career is all about men. Non-IT, it's a lot of men dominate. So I never really grew up professionally in an environment where I never had at that time a woman who can help me. I mean, I had nice boss, but no one actually came to me to give me any position that I had. I always went there and get those positions.
Okay. I didn't mean in the sense of giving you a position, but encouraging you
yeah, but even, no. I mean, honestly...
The other way around, did you find people who try to stop you?
Not that much, actually. No, and actually, I have to say, a lot of people is asking me, was it difficult to work with an environment that was really male-dominated? And not really. And actually, I think they appreciate the work that I was doing, and most of the time, they actually treat me, I would say, maybe more nicely than their male peers. Mm-hmm. Maybe because they feel less competition with me, which was a mistake.
They didn't know who they were dealing with, right?
but I do not experience any really situation where it was terrible being a woman.
Okay. Well, some of these issues are part of a broader topic, which is diversity, right? So, and I know that this is something which is dear to your heart, and when you were in the States also, you formed a club to advance this cause, if we can call it like that. Maybe you can tell us a little bit how you think, how you see diversity, and maybe you can relate to some of these experiences based on what you did in the States, please.
Yeah, diversity, I agree with you. I mean, and you mentioned it a little bit in the introduction. So first of all, I mean, diversity is not just gender diversity. It's also about cultural diversity, background, educational background diversity, age. And I'm a really true believer that diversity is, for me, for a company, is not even an option. If you're not diverse, I mean, you won't be able to have a sustainable growth. Diversity brings creativity because they force everyone in the company to get out from their comfort zone. They also bring new ideas, so they allowed us to think differently. And so diversity for me it's a competitive advantage, definitely for a company. And it's an investment. So I'm not seeing it as, okay, we need to have women in the company. No. The way I'm seeing it is that we need to be diverse if we want to be creative, if we want to innovate, and therefore if we want to perform. And so diversity actually also brings 3 key signals when you develop those type of program in a company. First of all, it shows, there is research that shows that the best candidate usually goes to companies that have a good diversity program. It's also give a good sign to your employee. It helps to explain to your employee that what you are expecting from them is to be able to work together, even if you share different view. And this is very important. It's also show a signal to your employee that you are, for you, it's important that creativity is part of their day-to-day activity. And last but not least, it's also give a good signal to the investor. I mean, there is research that shows that when a company gets a reward on diversity, on a diversity program, the stock price goes up. And because it shows that the company is open, the company is close to the customer. Customers are usually not just men or not just women. They are diverse, or they are not just white or not just black, and they are diverse. So all that is something that is really important, and we can see that the mentality is shifting a little bit. It takes some time, and more leaders understand that you need to bring diversity within the company if you want to perform. But I will ask you the same question. I mean,
it's supposed to be a dialogue.
It will be interesting to see. I mean, you are leading one of the most prestigious institution here in Portugal, and so how do you view diversity as the institution, but also within your
sure.
student?
I mean, I fully agree with you. I mean, research shows that diverse groups are more creative. Often come back to solutions even faster. Not always. I mean, if the task is very technical, maybe you need all engineers to solve the problem. But in general, it is. And so for us, as an institution, one of the things we try to do clearly is we do a lot of work in groups. And we try to maximize that diversity in groups so that people get used to work with people that are very different from themselves. And that leads to several realizations. One of them is, well, as you say, I need to listen. I need to respect others. So it's a humbling experience sometimes. And some people are not that humble, and they have to learn to be a little bit more humble and listen and work in group towards a common goal. And this is a feature that it's very useful in corporate life and in day-to-day life. Because as humans, we're social animals. We're bound to work with others. And that is something that we care. We even have an algorithm to maximize diversity when we mix these groups. Okay, so we try to clearly we have international programs where then the diversity comes very naturally, having people with different backgrounds, nationalities. But we used to have lots of engineers, for example, in applying to our MBA programs, and now we seek to. It's not that we don't want engineers, but we want to, broaden the space, and that has to do also something with sometimes they ask, what's the percentage of female that you have in your programs? I said, well, so much. I said, not much. Well, look at the pool we're fishing from. 50% of them are engineers, and so few women start. And that's another topic we can talk about. I know that you have launched initiatives to promote more what we call STEM, science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and science, so that women actually are not afraid, so to speak. There's no, as you would say, there's no monopoly in these things. But anyway, so I think it is. I agree with you. It's a fact that in corporate life, this diversity leads to better results, and it's something that we should not be afraid of. We should, on the contrary, embrace it wholeheartedly.
Yep. Thank you.
So maybe, let me think. Let's go to the international part. I think they put us here together because both you and myself have been in many different countries and have experienced not only diversity within a given context where people have maybe different studies, background in industries, but also the different cultural features that you inherit from the countries and the context in which you operate. So I think the question is, do you see differences in the US, in Africa? I'm sure there are, but which are the more relevant ones for what we are talking about here, which is diversity in general, but gender parity and female leadership?
So that's not an easy question, because there is no like a unique statement for each countries. In
well,
a sense,
based on your own experience, just what you have seen, just make it simple.
Because I mean, and even in my experience, I mean, you sometimes you see in countries where you have really initiative or things that really contradict, and I will explain myself. So, for example, the United States. You mentioned the United States. I mean, they've been pioneers in women's rights, and they have a lot of initiative for years now on diversity in general and promoting minorities, which is, I think, really great. But on the other side, I mean, if I talk my personal experience, there is no maternity leave when you have kids. And for me, it was a shock. I mean, I had 3 kids and twins. And you have to go to work, or you have to take what they call a short-term disability. And for me, if I have kids, I'm not disabled. I just have kids. So I mean, that's where it's difficult to say, okay, yes, women's rights, good, but and I'm not even talking about paternity leave, because I think paternity leave is as important as maternity leave. It's the same in France. I mean, in France, I think there were this great initiative from the government that to impose some type of quota, even if I'm not always a big fan of quota, but in this case, I think was quite valuable to have 40% of women on the board since I think 2017. But on the other hand, so if you look at the salary gap between men and women, it's still 20%. So and I think there is no country that are definitively that have a good balance and equal between men and women. Some countries are doing better, and in Africa, to go to back to Africa, it's also quite interesting, because in Africa, actually, in West Africa, it's a matriarchal system. And so I grew up in some place where the women have the power and the authority. And they really are the one who own the money at home, and nothing can be decided without the woman. And actually, the kids inherit from the woman, not from the men. But now in those same countries today, they prevent girls to go to school and to stay home and take care of the kids. So it's really it's something that I think unfortunately is an issue that is everywhere in the world. Even if some countries do definitively have some I mean, step a little bit further than others, and here in Portugal, I mean, I was just asked a question. I mean, what I experience is that compared to what I experienced, especially in the United States, but also in France, is that this concern of diversity is for now is really limited to women. First of all, we don't see diversity with a big D, as we mentioned earlier. And so it's really seen as a woman thing. And since I've been here, sometimes I really wish to be a man. Because when I talk, I have the feeling that people say, oh, she's saying that because she's a woman. And I'm not saying that because I'm a woman. I'm saying that because I truly believe that diversity will help us to bring the company and the society to a better world. But the fact that I'm a woman is definitively here an handicap. And I haven't experienced that when I was in the United States. And I think that the men population, I mean, I can see some men here, not enough, if I may say so. So congratulations for those who are here. I can see some Natixis ambassador. Thank you for being here. And but we need women. We cannot find diversity and just be the women together. We need to have the women. So thank you for interviewing me on that subject. But it's really something that I experienced that here. It's not only in Portugal, but here I think it's really something that is very strong.
Mm-hmm. So we talked before about this, the fact that there are not so few women that chose for technology or science, mathematics, and so forth. I know you are championing, if I can use the pun, a program called Champions for Change to promote diversity and inclusion. here in Portugal, maybe borrowing on some of the things that you were doing in the States before. Can you tell us more about this and how you think this is going to help with these issues that we're talking about?
Yep. So actually, when I came here, I mean, here in Natixis, we are developing an IT center. So our employees are mainly technology people. And so when I came, I noticed that there were not that much women. So first thing what I did, I went to see the HR and who is here, and I said, Telmo, what's going on? I mean, we need to have more women here. And he was like, yes, we try. And I say, you're doing a good job, but we need more women. And at the end, matter of fact is that, as you mentioned earlier, I mean, there is no fish. There is nothing you can fish. Huh? And so I was like, okay, so the problem is border. And instead of, I mean, in Natixis, we have a program called WIN, which is to promote women and to help women to develop their career within Natixis. And I said, okay, WIN is important, but we need to go further. And we need to look at why we don't have women looking for technology job. And the reason why, I mean, for me, it's not an issue for Natixis. I mean, even if I wish we can have more women in those areas, but it's really also a society issue, and it really need to be viewed in an holistic approach. And this is what Champion for Change is. And the reason why is because you're going to have a lot of jobs that will disappear because of technology. Most of the jobs today are actually done by women. On the other hand, you're going to have new jobs that will be created thanks to this digital revolution. I mean, recently, United Nations, they launched a survey where they say that we have 7 million new jobs in Europe by 2025, which is tomorrow. So if the women don't go in that race, it's going to be worse than the situation is today. And so this is something that we really need to wake up, not only as a company, but also university, school, as a parents also, the way we are educate the girls to make sure that they understand that the STEAM job, as you say, so science, technology, engineering, maths, are not just a monopoly of one gender, but they can be really taken by both men and women with equal opportunity. So this is really what Champion for Change is. It's part of our social security program, social responsibility program, sorry. So we launched this last January. It's a long-term program. It's not something that will be done in a short term. And the idea is really to find some partners, universities and school, so we can work together to be able to really promote the STEAM job to the girl. So we are going to some school. We are bringing also students in the office, so the girl can understand that it's okay to work with men, and also can understand that it's not a boring job. It's not just IT is not just coding. There is a lot of different activities within IT that can be quite interesting, also for ladies. So this is really what Champion for Change is.
It's interesting because with automation, new technologies, Industry 4.0 and so forth, in Germany alone, I've seen studies by Siemens commenting on the fact that so many jobs are going to, not really jobs, sometimes people talk about tasks rather than jobs. Okay, but anyway, call it task jobs, are going to be automated away. At the same time, the wealth of data that will come with the new sensors and this information will be useful to manage things in a different way. So indeed, the skills that they're going to be needed is data analytics, and it's a field, as you said, that typically is more reserved, traditionally, by men. So the interesting part of the study was saying, okay, so many jobs or tasks are going to go away. At the same time, so many more are going to be created. The problem is the gap between the people who are leaving and the skills that are needed for the new ones are completely different.
Yeah.
And can you retrain the old ones? So from a societal point of view, this is a major thing. What you're bringing to the equation is, wait a minute, it's not only in general, but when you look at women specifically, it's even worse. Okay, that's a good realization, and I think I'm glad you bring it to the attention, because sometimes it gets lost in this general debate on the the societal consequences of the fourth industrial revolution.
And it's a lot about stereotype that the girls are giving to themselves, stereotype that we are also giving to our kids. I mean, as I said, I have twins, one boy, one girl. And from day one, the boy was given Lego, strategic things, and the girl was given a doll to take care of people. And at the end, guess what? The girl wants to be a nurse, and the boy is an engineer. And I mean, it's just, and you can have hundreds of examples like that. And it's actually interesting. We're talking about international. I was actually yesterday in Algeria. And I talked with the French ambassador over there, and he was explaining me that actually in Algeria, which is not a country that is reputed for women's rights, and in Algeria, actually, the STEAM, the student in engineer and in maths and in technology are in majority women. Because they actually, so they have, 65% of women in the university. And his explanation is that because they're seeing that as a way to get more freedom and as a way to actually get more rights. So I found it's quite interesting because it's another example where you can see that, when there is a motivation, the woman can go to those jobs, and because also for women in Algeria to have those expertise allow them to find a job abroad.
It's funny you mentioned that. I have 4 children, and the 2 boys are engineers, and the girl is an artist, and the 4th one, I don't know, somewhere in between, social sciences.
So how we educate,
and then I reflect, did I give them Lego blocks? And I said, of course I gave them Lego blocks. I even played Lego myself, so of course. But it's I think, we had known then, when we were young parents, what the consequences of that. Maybe, we'd have done differently, and maybe I would have 4 engineers instead of 2 in my family. Okay, well, that's
but
interesting.
Maybe also, do you, Champion for Change, this is a program that we have launched here at Porto Business School. Do you have also...
Well, of course, we welcome, and we as I said before, we believe this is an issue that we cannot shy away from, and we have to bring it to the fore. And this event today here is an example of our embracing of and try to do something about these issues, if only to create awareness and bring role models so that others get inspired. And you may have inspired somebody today here. So, but no, in general, and going back to the question of the MBAs that I was talking about, I said diversity is important, and in fact, the very first example that we have of diversity, I remember, and it's a person sitting in the audience here. She will laugh when I'm going to tell that story. We had an alumni reunion here in November, and we were celebrating the first class that was graduating from that event. And she was the only female, if I'm not mistaken, in that group. And they were talking about stories. Do you remember this? And they were talking about things that happened. And they said, well, you were the only female student in the group. And they were talking about consumer choice and how decisions are made, purchasing behavior, that kind of stuff, a marketing class. And they were talking about cars, how you choose on the business car. Performance, horsepower, you name it. And then she said, well, what about color? They look, color? Color? Oh, yes. Well, I hadn't thought of that. So that brings you. That was the first example that I can quote about Porto Business School about diversity. Margarita, are you here somewhere? You're not ashamed that I said that, right? So it stuck in my head. So this is just an example. What I'm trying to say is that we are trying to bring diversity and female. We even have a scholarship, and that's the question: is should you incentivize this or not? It's like the question of quotas. Now, some companies have. It's like in the United States, the affirmative action program for minorities and things like that. There are people in favor and against that. There are pros and cons, and this would be a topic for another debate. I don't think we have time for that. But what I'm trying to say, yes, we try to incentivize that. We have women that have children during the program, and we try to cater for that. We have a room where they can go and breastfeed and take care of the children. So we're not as advanced as many other companies have, that maybe they will have a nursery or something with, we are working in that direction. That's one thing. Now, more generally, and talking about something that Margarita and others that are here in the audience started, is the Women in Business Club. And that's interesting, is they organized, we have met here at least twice, and the topic was very similar to some of the things we were talking about, the added value of diversity in management. We had Paula Acevedo from SONAE, and Maria Amelia Ferreira, former director of the Faculty of Medicine, University of Porto. And this initiative was created a little bit following other initiatives like He for She and Lean In, where several international business schools established clubs and groups to support, to discuss these issues, to bring role models and inspire women and create a bigger awareness. And I think the idea is that, just what you were saying, there are unconscious biases out there, and that's even more important for us to know, because in part it may be the way we relate to our female counterparts in organizations. We have to be very respectful in general, not just with women. As you said, one of the things that you learn, and I learned, and you have learned, being in a multicultural environment in different countries, that you have to be very respectful and very adaptable. And okay, things are done differently. When in Rome, to do as the Romans, right? Or maybe not, but at least you know that the Romans do it differently, and it's okay. It's okay to be different, as you said. And embracing that diversity and making part of what the organization is. These are things that we all need to learn. So I don't know if you want to say anything else, but I think we are reaching the end of our allotted time.
Yes, we're right on time.
Do you want to say something else?
I mean, what I can just add to all that is that, we mentioned it a little bit, but it's really, I insist a lot, it's not a concern just about for women. It's really something that need to be viewed in a very holistic approach. It's very important that we all work together, university, companies, parents, women association, to make sure that that things can change. If we are not doing that together, I think we'll fail, because I notice that on all those initiatives, first of all, you feel alone, because the resistance to the change is very strong, and so it's important that we can partner in all those between all those different organizations and institutions, but also it will show to the communities that again is not just to please women. It's really something that it will change the society, it will help our kids, it will help the companies, and it's something that we should really view in a more broader perspective than whether just, even if it's important, but the issue is broader than just that.
And with these words of, I guess, wisdom and I don't know, foresight or warning, so we should finish our part of the debate. Thank you for attending. Thank you for coming. Thank you. Thank you very much.